Welcome to Women's Take on the Real News Network. Today I'm joined by Senator Nan O'Rourke, a senator from Georgia. She's here with America's Future campaign here in Washington, D.C. And we are operating out of the Omnia Hotel here. And thank you for joining us today, Senator.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be with you.
Senator, you're with an organization in the legislature called WILL. Can you tell us more about that?
The Women Legislators Lobby is a program of WAND, Women's Action for New Directions. And for the last 15 or so years, we have been building a network of resourcing women legislators across the country that serve in the State House and the State Senate in each of the 50 states. There's 1,750, between 1,750 and 1,800 women who serve in state legislatures. We're a pipeline to Congress. Many of the women in Congress came from state legislative service. Our network has about 1,700 of those 1,700 women, about 700 are in this national network. And we're very committed to bringing women's voices to Washington, to the federal policy and budget, and linking up what happens here in Washington with what happens in the states. Because in the states, you're really down on the ground, working to meet the needs of your constituents and working with very real-life budgets. We have to balance a budget every year. We're very impacted by what goes on in Washington, and we have been directing the attention of women legislators to understand the budget, and in particular the federal military budget, which consumes so much of our national taxpayer dollars, and to understand how that impacts whether they have good clean water programs, job retraining programs, supports for families, child care, education, all of those needs, the safety net, and all of the things that state government handles are so tied to what happens in Washington. So we seek to build that link between state capitals and the Capitol in Washington and bring women's voices into politics.
That's fantastic. Can you tell me more about the military budget issues that you're dealing with? What is it that you're calling for?
The military budget is gargantuan. We spend more as Americans on the military than all the other nations combined across the world. It is a phenomenal.
You're calling for a reduction.
Yes, that's right. We're vastly overspend. Every year Congress has a discretionary budget and cuts that budget pie. 54% of the discretionary spending every year goes to the Pentagon.
For what sorts of things?
Eisenhower said it best as he prepared to leave office in the 50s. He said, beware the military-industrial complex. It can distort your entire economy, and you have spending decisions made to benefit defense contractors and the defense industry that are not in the best interest of the nation and ultimately don't serve the best interests of the U.S. standing in the world and the U.S. government's responsibility to protect our citizens and to be a good world citizen.
But this administration and your president, Barack Obama, has actually increased military spending in the short time he's been in office. Is that not correct?
That's not a thorough statement of the situation. He has proposed a budget that is far different from the George Bush military budget. George Bush military budget was cranking up about $20 billion additional dollars every year, adding and swelling the military budget. The Barack Obama administration is calling for a reduction in spending on the Cold War weapons systems that consume vast amounts of money, billions of dollars. They are ramping down the spending on the Star Wars concept, the missile defense concept.
Yeah, but he has asked for more money for Iraq and Afghanistan, and do you support him in that move?
Those dollars are not even in, sadly, the defense budget. Historically, he is putting those in the defense budget, which gives us a more accurate picture of what we're spending. You know, the Bush administration would come and get an emergency spending item and blow another $70 billion, $80 billion on Afghanistan and Iraq, on the wars in the Middle East. That is direction that we are looking long term for those conflicts to be ramped down and for us to really shift, and we're calling on the spending to shift over into other beyond military spending on weaponry and war to shift into investing in intelligence. You know, we had a lamentable number of people who even understood the Farsi language at the time of 9/11. We were not investing. We have been declining in our international aid and international bridge building, which is a part of our security budget. Those need to be ramped up, and we are in a conversation in support of the President's short-term recommendations on reallocation of military spending, and we're urging Congress to, there's going to be a battle. Is the F-22 going to be cut from the budget? This enormously expensive
Isn't
jet
that sort
fighter?
of like a carrot to those who want to de-weaponize, in the sense that you need weapons to fight in Iraq, you need weapons to fight in Afghanistan. So some of the budget he's calling for and has increased in terms of, you know, his term in office so far means that he's actually needing more, to spend more on weapons and for military gear.
It's not a carrot to call for shutting down the F-22 production. That it is complete waste of taxpayer dollars. It has been. It's been going on for decades, and that's not a carrot.
That's
no
a
other
no-brainer,
president.
though.
It's not a no-brainer. If you've been to Washington lately, it is not a no-brainer to cut Lockheed, to cut the big defense industry spending for a jet fighter. That's not a carrot. That's not a small, tiny. We've been unable to get that. For decades, we've been seeking to, and Star Wars. Reagan started Star Wars. It keeps re-emerging, reborn, rebirthed,
So the
spending
problem
billions
is
of
Lockheed
dollars.
here in terms of their influence on our senators and
It's
our
more than
legislators.
Lockheed. It's the whole defense, the military-industrial complex. And so moving anything out of the military budget is tremendously challenging. We're calling on Congress to support the cuts. We're calling on Congress to support the cuts.
Why is it so difficult?
Why is it so difficult?
Yes.
Dwight Eisenhower explained it very well. That is that the defense industry funds members of Congress. The F-22 is constructed in 44 states. So the congressmen stand up for military spending on exotic, outdated, expensive weapon systems because it's jobs in their district,
right.
and the holy grail of jobs. We have done a study we have done a study that shows that if you take those dollars that you're spending on jobs in the military production and you put it over into the public sector, into education, health, and construction, you produce more jobs and you fuel our economy. So we're calling for shifting the spending of military dollars into the public sector and away from lining the pockets of the defense industry. That is a long-term battle.
Pockets of some of our politicians as well.
Well, as I pointed out, the whole way that we fund campaigns and fund politics in America does lend itself to undue influence by deep pocket special interests. The defense industry is one of those, but what they come is with a platter steaming hot, laden with jobs for your constituents when they talk to a congressman. Exactly. So find a congressman who will say, I'm willing to shut down the defense plant in my district and see 2,200 good paying unionized jobs go out the window. That's a very steep incline, and a lot of work has to be done. That's why we work with women legislators to help them understand what disadvantage we're at when we're blowing so much money on a military budget and not investing in education, not investing in our children and our future, and why they need to be concerned. Many people are unaware of the bloated military spending and how it deforms everything else we're able to do. I mean, we're on a dangerous track towards a militarized society where military dollars consume so much of this country's value that everything else is left out.
Getting back to the influence of the military-industrial complex in our political Senate and legislature, are there some solutions that you want to be working on particularly? Do you see, what is the solution to this problem?
Well, we have just submitted a letter to Congress signed by almost 400 women legislators from around the country who are elected by millions of constituents, asking them to support the cuts to the budget that are recommended by the Obama administration and to redirect military spending into international peacekeeping, international bridge building, into homeland security that's genuine. And we believe homeland security that's genuine is rooted in having a population that has some security of jobs a good education and a future for our children.
Thank you, Senator. We are out of time for our first segment, but we are looking forward to having you back. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on the Real News Network.